with Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, who was in the Senate chamber yesterday as that evidence was presented. She was also among those who were rushed to safety on January 6th. She joins us now. Senator Klobuchar, I'm so glad to see you. Listen.
Thanks, Gail.
Listen, we all knew that it was a dangerous situation. We were watching it in real time back January 6th, but I think yesterday we got to see how dangerous it was. I'm so haunted by the police officers, where you can hear the fear and the urgency in their voice as they were trying to protect themselves and protect you all. What did you learn yesterday that maybe you didn't know?
Well, I, from the beginning, had always thought about those police officers because, bottom line, a lot of us weren't as scared as maybe we should have been, but we weren't scared because the police officers were there. And that moment where the officer is shrieking in pain,
yes,
literally putting his body and got wedged in a door between this angry mob and all of us to protect us is what you don't forget. Or the African-American officer, after being called the N-word 15 times, being impaled with poles, with the American flag saying to his friend, "Is this America?" Those are things I don't forget. So I think people are finally realized these cops, over 100 of them were injured. This was very, very dangerous for them, and they were the frontline victims.
Senator, there have been reports that some of your Republican colleagues were quite troubled by the video they've seen in the last couple of days. Do you get any sense that there is any movement on the Republican side in terms of this impeachment vote?
Well, we know there was one senator that surprisingly changed and voted with us when it came to allowing the case to proceed to a trial, Senator Cassidy of Louisiana. And we have to think of it this way. That initial vote to allow it to go forward and say it's constitutional to have the trial, that was one vote. But after that, to me, there's a reset. You basically say, okay, this is the law. It gets to go forward. Now you got to make a decision on the facts. So you don't know where they are right now, if some of them will decide to vote to impeach the president. I don't know how you get away from the facts, not only what he did, but what he didn't do. When he didn't call in the National Guard and his vice president had to do it when his vice president was in peril, or he didn't very firmly tell his people to get out of the Capitol, to leave, to stop, with his family members telling him to do it, with Governor Christie telling him to do it. You just can't get away from those strong facts.
Yeah, what he didn't say was just as important as what he didn't do was just as important as what people thought that he did do. I'm wondering, what was the reaction as you all were watching it together as a group? Because there are reports that Senator Hawley, for instance, was kicking back on the top level, either reading a paper or reading a magazine. Is that possibly true? And Lindsey Graham tweets that the presentation was offensive and absurd. How do we get together when there seems to be so much, or maybe indifference as to what people saw yesterday?
Well,
first, is that true about Senator Hawley? Is that true?
I wouldn't have been able to see him because he'd be above me. No, the senators were allowed to go up there during the trial because of COVID to space out. Most people just stayed in their chairs, so I didn't see him do that. But I don't understand why anyone could say this was offensive. It was just the facts. Yeah, the facts are offensive. The facts are horrific. They're hard to watch, but it is what happened. And so I do think, though, you see other Republicans that are very moved, horrified, looking down, looking upset. So who knows what they will do and where their conscience will guide us. But this is a moment of patriotism. You've got to do what's right for the country.
Senator, the Capitol has always been a remarkably accessible federal building, a house for the people, in effect. You're on the Rules Committee. Do you see that having to change after this?
You know, as a chair of the Rules Committee, we are going to have hearings in the next month on exactly that, what happened, what went wrong, what kind of intelligence did they have, and what happened with the perimeter. You heard many times the cries, they breached the line, we've lost the line, we've lost the line. That was one of the scariest things. So yes, I think that we'll have to look at where that perimeter is, what kind of presence of law enforcement and even potentially National Guard, not in the numbers we have now, which is needed because of the heightened risk, but what we do around the Capitol. And of course, that should be something. You just can't go back to things like they were. Yeah. You can still have accessibility for the public. You can still have tours. Those things can happen. Yeah. But to protect not just us, but to protect the officers, the people, we're going to have to look at some changes.
All right. Senator Klobuchar, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. Thank you, Gail.